High in the Scotland Highlands, a storm battled the thick stone walls of a remote castle. Inside, the roar of the wind only emphasized the crushing silence of the halls. In the shadows of that keep sat King Robert the Bruce. The crown represented the fate of entire nation, visibly breaking him. He wore the armor of a warrior and held the weapons of a conqueror, but the man inside was hollowed out. He had led his man into battle 6 times, and 6 times they were driven back. This compounding series of catastrophic losses had eroded his Basilian resolve. Now he started blankly at the floor. His sword lay still in the shadows, mirroring the total depth of his optimism. In the gloom of the empty room, the king reached his limit. He made the conscious, definitive choice to surrender. An invading army can only seize territory. The true collapse of a kingdom happens the exact second its leader abandons the will to fight. But just he prepared to walk away from his throne, a magical moment in the corner of the room caught his eye. Dangling by a silicon thread was a tiny spider drafted by the massive stone blocks surrounding it. The creature began to climb, struggling upward to pull its own weight against the drafts of the castle. Suddenly, its tiny grip failed. The spider plummeted downward, losing every single inch of progress it had fought for. Without hesitation, the insect gathered its legs and started climbing again and again. It fell. The king watched this and scoffed. Projecting his own despair, he saw only foolish creature wasting energy on a hopeless task. This is the failure loop, a cycle where maximum effort seeming yields a net zero return. Bruce believed the spider, like himself, was simply trapped in a pattern that couldn't be broken. On the spider's next attempt, the pattern shifted. It reached the halfway point and slipped, but this time it managed to catch itself midair. The moment of suspended failure acted as a hook, forcibly pulling the king out of his internal despair. Bruce physically leaned forward, bracing his hands on his knees. He was no longer a man waiting for the end, but an observer invested in the struggle. The spider adapted. It abandoned its frantic pace and began to climb slowly, placing every leg with deliberate care. The climb was grueling. The creature inched upward, fighting every millimeter as it closed on the overhead beam. And then it reached the top. The tiny creature secured its grip permanently, breaking its cycle of failure. Witnessing that anchor hold shattered the king's belief that his past losses dictated his future. If the spider wasn't destined to fall, perhaps he wasn't destined to lose. A smile broke across the king's face. He let out a vocal cheer, acknowledging the creature's triumph over the odds. If a fragile insect could endure 6 falls and succeed on the seventh, his own execution wasn't signal to quit, but a hurdle to be cleared. Bruce rose to his feet. His strength returned as he reached down and firmly gripped the hilt of his weapon once more. He walked to the castle doors and pushed them open, letting the morning light flood into the hall. The storm had genuinely passed. Outside, the Scottish mills stretched out beneath a clearing sky, revealing the path forward. He stood on the threshold of the castle, his hands steady on his sword, no longer defeated by the defeats that had brought him there. The spider proved that the cycle of failure only ends when the effort stops. True resilience is the decision to stand up and try again. Thank you.